Hi Owen, how are you? You're very welcome. Can I just check with you there that you can hear me and see me there, please, if you let me know?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, hi, good evening, good Abend. We'll just wait now and, okay, great, so just for people to join in and we'll get started. So, guten Abend, konnte ich euch willkommen heißen. Welcome everyone this evening, just to the masterclass for the German oral. And if there's at any stage any issue with anything, please unmute and ask, or if you have any questions as we go through, please unmute and ask. And I'm going to run through some key areas that we'll cover in our master class tonight, which will be covered in our 4-hour oral class that we run this Saturday for German higher level and ordinary level. Okay, so if there's any issues with anything, please feel free to ask, unmute, or put your hand up and I'll come to you. So starting this evening, I'm going to start with the actual, this on your screen there, you can see we're just going to introduce it today. We're having a look at the major parts of the oral itself. So I'm going to start with that first. And konnte ich euch willkommen heißen. I welcome you all and es freut mich sehr, wirklich mit euch mitzuarbeiten. Delighted to be working with you this evening, okay? And dass Sie an diesem course teilnehmen and taking part in this course with me today. So on the screen there, you can see what we're going to look at today. An overview of the overall German exam. I'm going to dip in and out to go through some of those key areas with you and how you're marked. Then we're going to look at some of the types of questions you get for the picture sequence and for the role plays. And we're also going to look at the project. So we'll dip into all different areas today, taking into account as well, we're going to have a look at word order and cases and the perfect tense, which would be a very important section for the oral. Okay, so starting off, you can see on the screen there, the first part I'm going to do, and if you have any paper and pen, take notes, might be no harm for you to do as you go through. Die mündliche Prüfung besteht aus 3 Teilen. The oral exam consists of 3 sections. Allgemeine Fragen, Bildergeschichte oder Projekt, and then Rollenspiel, okay? So, wie man sagt, Übung macht den Meister. The practice absolutely makes perfect. It's a really student-friendly exam. It's very student-focused, and the idea behind the oral is to give you all the marks they possibly can to reward you for the learning that you have done. Die Prüfung dauert 15 Minuten. It lasts 15 minutes in total. Eine Viertelstunde, quarter of an hour. And hat 3 Teile, wie ich schon gesagt habe, as I've already said. For den Leistungskurs Deutsch, for Honors German, it's 100 Punkte, 100 marks, which is 25%, 25%. And for den Grundkurs, for ordinary level, it's 20. So we do the same exam and they adapt the marking according to it as you decide what level you're going to do. The oral has general conversation, gets 100, gets 40 marks out of 100, which is 10%, 10%. Die Fragen dauern 4,5, 5 Minuten. They normally last roughly about 4.5 to 5 minutes. It's ein allgemeines Gespräch über verschiedene Themen. It's a general conversation over different themes. And we have 7 bestimmte Themen, die sie stellen, die sie benutzen. They've got 7 key themes where they use, which I look at with you tonight as well and dip into. So the general questions I just said there last 4.5 to 5 minutes. And think about that for one moment. In your vocabulary, that's 10% of your leaving cert in 5 minutes, which is 2% a minute. So the actual oral general questions carry a huge weighting of marks, okay? And it's just very important for your sake to not forget that as you go through. The second section then is the project picture sequence. Man hätte eine Wahl, you have a choice here zwischen einem Projekt. Dieses Projekt sollte sich etwas Deutsches Thema behandeln. It should deal with a German theme. It should be, it should be gegründet auf Deutsch, should be based on something in German, and it's 30 marks. And man hätte eine Wahl zwischen, you've got a a choice between einem Projekt oder einer Bildergeschichte or a picture sequence. Dieses Jahr musste man nur 3 Bildergeschichten wählen. You only had to do 3 this year. So there are 5 Bildergeschichten, there are 5 picture sequences. We'll cover all 5 in a certain range in the course, and we also will cover you and give you support for your project. But that is a test of your grammar, word order, present tense, and that's worth 7,5%. That's worth 7.5% of your overall oral exam. And the third section is the Rollenspiel. Sie haben nur auch 3 Rollenspiele. You have 3 role plays. There's 5, and you choose between 3. And of the 5, and you would tell the examiner which 3 you're doing, or your school will have chosen 3. And in that, then the role play is what I would call the easiest section. It is the last section, and it's content based. So I'll run through the marking scheme of this with you briefly tonight, and we cover all role plays in the oral course and specify and just concentrate on where marks are mostly lost and what to do to avoid that. You can see here the criteria for anything I judge you in the oral will be, so you've got everything in the general questions. It's 2020. If you just want to write that down, first of all, for the general questions. So 20 for content, like everything in the Leaving Cert Smart, 20 for content, and then 20 for expression. And expression will be the Ausdrücke, phrases, Redewendungen, idiomatic, proverbs, little words you might use, and then your Grundwissen, your basic knowledge. And that would be like your Vorbereitung and your preparation. So they would expect you to be prepared, and accordingly, so you will have some answers prepared for different themes. Now, I'll just go back to what I said again, 2020 for the general questions, which means 20 for your communication, and then 20 for your Wortstellung, word order, Zeitform and tenses, and for your Ausdrücke. So how you say it. So your expression mark contains your nice language, your accuracy in the basics, your word order, and your tenses, okay? And that's very, very important to remember. And like I said, 4,5, 5 Minuten max, 4.5 to 5 minutes max. So when you're faced with that, you're not going to be long talking about topics. So you don't need to have, big long A4 pages. So start with your best language first. On this screen, you can see the language range, and we'll go into this and I'll show you how to build up an answer in the oral course that we're doing. But it's basically, I'm going to mark you on your range of vocabulary and variety. So for example, one person might say, ich habe ein gutes Verhältnis, which is relationship, and then you might bring in another time, eine gute Beziehung. So it's kind of showing a variety of expression, Verschiedenheit der Sprache, variety of the language, your range of expression, and then your awareness and use of grammar. Just taking into account, if you're taking some short notes for yourself tonight, Wortstellung, word order, and Zeitform and tenses are the 2 key things in the general questions that they're really looking out for. We also need to be independent from the examiner, which is a natural kind of observation. And appropriateness means like that you would always use the polite form with the examiner. You will never confuse, like say for studieren, to study 3rd level and learn in 2nd level, and just basic Aussprache, your pronunciation. So moving in then to the actual general questions, it's 4 to 5 minutes. We use the polite form. The perfect tense is essentially a crucial part of the oral, and generally we don't award above 28 marks to somebody, or if I'm about to give you above 28 marks, then I'll ask you perfect tense. So I would describe the perfect tense and work hard on that with you as the God in the oral. I need to have good past tense. It's like the I'm sure gotcha in Irish. You need to have your good perfect tense, your haben and sein plus the past participle. And I'm going to take a look at that this evening briefly with you as well. So a lot of people do have difficulty in the perfect tense, and as a consequence will lose a lot of marks. If I don't have nice past tense from you, that means accurate, simple. Ich habe gelesen, ich bin gegangen, ich habe gesprochen. Wir sind ausgegangen, wir haben gegessen, getrunken. Ich bin aufgestanden. So past tense, they're crucial. Remember, we're using polite form the whole way, and the examiner then will generally warm up with questions like, haben Sie Geschwister? Welche Fächer lernen Sie in der Schule? Or wie kommen Sie zur Schule, your Schulweg? erzählen Sie mir ein bisschen über Ihre Schule, Ihre Umgebung, and Ihr Fächer. So they generally will start off with a very kind of simple question. They're instructed to phrase them in not a complicated way. So they make it simple for you to understand, and then they give you an opportunity to start. And you always say, fangen Sie immer mit Ihren Besten an, always start with your best foot first. So get out the nice German in the first few sentences, speak slowly, accurately, check what you've been saying, and just comfortably, don't rattle it off, auswendig gelernt, off by heart. So you deliver it in a nice, comfortable manner. And then der erste Eindruck ist der wichtigste. The first impression is the most important. So you can see here the Hauptthemen, the main themes are, so family, area, Schule, first three. And then here we have Freizeit with my fourth. So the first four I would challenge there would be Freizeit, Wohnort. So haben Sie Geschwister? Tell me about your family. How do you get to school? Would you like to tell me something about your area? And then if I want to take you the next step, what is there for tourist or Jugendlichen in Ihrer Gegend zu tun? What is there for young people to do? We would then progress into your Schulfächer, your Pflichtfächer, your Wahlfächer. So there is one rule in the oral that's very important, and I'll show you a sample of this as well as we go through the oral course. And that is that if I ask you, was ist Ihr Lieblingsfach? Oder welche Pflichtfächer lernen Sie? I'm asking you compulsory subjects, or I'm asking you your favorite subject. If you start off saying ich lerne 7 Fächer and you list them all for, you don't give me the Lieblingsfach, you haven't answered the question. And that's where most marks can be lost, where they're lost in communication, not getting the answer, or wandering off the point, trying to learn off an answer and just stick it in. So it doesn't mean you can't get in things you prepared. It just means you've got to be very clever in how you deliver it. So always answer the question and taking it out. Okay, so that would mean that you take the question and you elaborate. The fourth area, Freizeit. Wollen Sie mir über einen deutschen Film oder einen deutschen Roman erzählen, den Sie gelesen haben oder gesehen haben? So normally students are asked also to would they like to talk about a novel or a short story that they've read or that they have seen. Now this is part normally of the general questions, and it is very important to remember that you don't have to do this, and 95% of the country don't do it. And it's generally asked while you're doing the general questions. So I'm going to just go down to it first and show you the phrasing for it. So Freizeit is where they generally will ask you. And they might ask you, was machen Sie in Ihrer Freizeit? Lesen Sie gern? Sehen Sie gern fern? And then on the screen here now, I'm just going to show you. So I will do this and give options for it at the oral course. So you're asked, wollen Sie über einen deutschen Film oder Roman oder Text erzählen, den Sie gelesen haben oder den Sie gesehen haben? And you just talk about it for a while, and we'll go into more detail on that. It's an option, and for some people who are nervous, it might be a nice one to take on. The key thing then for the general question, so I've called Stufe 1, Wohnort, Familie, Schule, Schulfächer, and Freizeit. And then I called Stufe 2, which is level 2, would be Deutsch, language learning, always asked, and you want to get asked it. Berufspläne, your career plans. And then the third area would be, waren Sie schon in Deutschland, ein Aufenthalt im deutschsprachigen Raum, a stay in a German-speaking area. And here's where they'll introduce the past tense. Was haben Sie letztes Wochenende gemacht? Was haben Sie letzten Sommer gemacht? Oder waren Sie schon in Deutschland? And it's really important to have a few good, well-prepared sentences on your past tense, okay? So what I am going to show you now is I'm going to screen down for a second to a marking scheme and show you the marking scheme for the general questions first. So we have 2 parts of the marking scheme. So here's an oral marking scheme, and I've just written in the areas that they would generally write in when they do the oral with you. So your Name, the date, and your exam number, and then I've just written in, so you've got like the 7 areas: Familie, Wohnort, Schule, Schulfächer, Schulsystem, Deutsch als Fach, Freizeit, Berufspläne, and your past tense. And then Deutschland as a topic. You might get was wissen Sie über ein deutsches Fest, German festival, oder wie ist Deutschland und Irland vergleichen, to compare them, or anders, okay? So the 4 marking schemes you can see here. So we'll run through the options here as well. What do I need to do to get into the 34 to 40? Well, nice expression, good basic solid tenses, nice range of vocabulary, and good word order with good well-prepared answers. So that would be my 9 to 10%. And here then I am going to slot you in between 26 and 32. And the cut-off point for past tense is 28. Just mark that down. So I don't get above 28, or if I'm about to give you above 28, I'll ask you past tense. But another student who might be at 24 will get asked past tense, and if they can give good past tense, will be brought up. So it's really important to know that the perfect tense is very important for the general questions. And like I said, it's 20, 20, the marking scheme there. So 20 for communication and 20 for your willingness to expand and show different range of vocabulary. So, and then not to forget again, so if you can take on from that the importance of language and expression broken up into 2. The perfect tense is a very important tense in German, and it's going to put it on the screen now for you here, and we'll have a quick look at it. So the perfect tense is one of 2 past tenses in German, and it is used for letter writing and conversation, and it's the big tense in the oral. And for us, it is very, very important to have it mastered. So it's formed either with the present tense of haben, or the present tense of sein, and the past participle. And we'd cover this, and I'll just cover this tonight with you because it is a really important section. And so all verbs take haben, including all reflexives. Regular verbs end in a T, spielen, gespielt, arbeiten, gearbeitet, and then wandern, gewandert, okay? And what you can see here, you've got your T here, you've got your G here, and you've got your arbeitet. So it's G plus a T for regular, and most verbs take haben, and verbs of movement take sein. So ich bin gewandert, verbs of movement take sein, and we need to show that difference in the oral. We need to be able to clarify to them very clearly. Ich bin gegangen, hat gelesen, okay? And then down here we have strong verbs, which are irregular verbs, always end in en. So we have past tense in 2 parts of the oral. Every role play has a past tense section. There's always 2 or 3 parts of the answer for the role play, past tense. The general questions has the perfect tense, and so has the project. In the middle part of the project, we must also have past tense. Strong verbs will always end in en. So lesen, gelesen, fahren, gefahren, laufen, gelaufen, sehen, gesehen, kommen, gekommen. So we always want to make sure, and then we have 2 types of irregular. Some go ge plus the full infinitive, like lesen, gelesen, sehen, gesehen, fahren, gefahren, kommen, gekommen, schlafen, geschlafen. And the second type will have a total vowel change. And you can see that happening here with gehen, gegangen, sprechen, gesprochen, finden, gefunden, schwimmen, geschwommen. And they're very strict on that. So I would highly recommend you prepare your past tense well and have your typischer Schultag, gestern, letztes Wochenende well prepared, and make sure you drill yourself on it. So important. And you can see here, gehen, ausgegangen, inseparable verbs, the G goes in the middle. So the perfect tense is also in your written letter, so one to watch out for. And here the formation is haben and sein plus the past participle, okay? So if I go down to my next page, you can see what verbs take haben, what verbs take sein. All verbs take haben is the way I teach it normally, including all reflexive, and then I learn the exceptions. And the exceptions would be verbs of movement from A to B, like steigen, gestiegen, aufstehen, aufgestanden, and then verbs which show a change of state, which is the second box here, like sterben, gestorben, wachsen, gewachsen, vergehen, vergangen, verschwinden, verschwunden. So all reflexive verbs, a reflexive verb is any verb that has sich in front of it. So wir haben uns angezogen. Ich habe mich mit meinen Eltern verabredet. I arranged to meet my parents. So sich verabreden is reflexive. And because it's reflexive, it will always take sign. So just to repeat again, the perfect tense would be a very important section for the actual oral. It's examined in the role play, in the project, and the general questions. And it's the ticket to the high grade. Keep that in mind. Good perfect tense, good high grade. That's the way it works. Good perfect tense, good high grade. So from that then, I'm just going to take you back to the marking scheme. And as I said, you're marked out of 40 for the general questions, and they're the Hauptthemen. And I'm going to come back later on to show you how I build up, answers to help you get to your own formation, because the orals are not far away. So what we don't want to do is expose you to too much. I mean, you can have we'll give you loads of information, because it'll also elaborate in with your leaving cert written paper, but you don't want to overload on too much new stuff. So you want to just tighten it all up and structure it up. So you can see here now the second part of the oral, and I'll start with the marking scheme first, is the Bildergeschichte oder Projekt. Now, if anyone would like to indicate by putting their hand up how many are doing the project, that would be great if you can, if you'd like to. So therefore I can cover it. You want to raise your hand just beside you there if anyone's in the project. So we all Bildergeschichten. Okay, 1. Okay, great. Killian, anyone else? So 2. Okay, great. Okay, anyone else? 3 tomorrow. Great. Okay. Anybody else for project? And is everyone else in the Bildergeschichten? Okay. So you might like to put any questions you have into the chat for either project or picture sequence. But if you look at the marking scheme that you can see on the screen here, it's a test of grammar. You might just like to remember that. The Bildergeschichten will test your grammatical accuracy. So we need to look at the various prepositions and cases. So the prepositions taking the accusative, the dative, in, an, auf, hinter, über, unter, vor, zwischen, and neben. So I look at the cases. You need to know your dirty das table, and you need to know your basic mein, dein, sein, ihr. Okay, so for either you give whichever picture you get, you've chosen 3, you get storytelling up to 16 to 18 sentences. And what you want to do is you learn off your version of the picture and you narrate the story, no questions asked. Now, what happens with this is they're spread down on the table. The examiner will say, bitte wählen Sie eine Bildergeschichte aus. And if you're doing the project, she'll have seen a copy of the project, or she'll hold it in her hand during the oral, and she'll have seen it beforehand, and she'll have some questions prepared on it for you. So both are marked equally, 10 marks for your version of the story, 10 marks for your presentation of the project. So keep that in mind, first of all. So you get 10 marks for learning of 20 sentences, 15 to 20 sentences on your story narration, and about 2 minutes narrating the presentation of your project. And I suppose to remember with both the project and the picture sequence. So it's going to throw the picture sequence up on the screen first. So I've chosen one that is a popular one to be looking at for, and this is called Handy Mubbin. So you've got 6 pictures, and you will hold the picture in your hand, and you have 30 minutes to look at it before you start. And the examiner will tell you, Sie haben eine halbe Minute oder 30 Sekunden, and you can just get your thoughts together. The same with the project, and then ohne ein Fragen, without any asking questions, she'll ask you to give your version of the picture sequence or the project. So you give an uninterrupted verbal presentation of what you've learned. So you can see here then the pictures have very detailed elements in it. And these exclamation marks there say number 6 here. Okay, just where I'm highlighting there, for example, or here, her facial expression, or what's the teacher saying here? What are they saying over here? What's he thinking here? What's she thinking here? What's going on here? What's the jogger thinking here? Etc. Why is she crying? So there's any amount of questions that what are the parents thinking here? Was ist mit unseren Kindern los? What's wrong with our children? Describe what's on the table for breakfast. Describe her room is a big question, and her facial expression, etc. So you can see here, they'll ask you then, you give your version of your picture sequence, and if your project has pictures in it, they'll also ask you to describe a picture from the project. So keep that in mind, to describe a picture from the project or to be able to cover something from the picture sequence, okay? So it's really good if you have time, and I will cover those with you and give you samples of them, to actually look at the pictures and try to use part of your version that you've learned with it and to explain and practice those at home. There are so many varied variety of questions. There are some that they commonly ask, but you need to be able to give at least 3 to 4 sentences here to try and get a good mark for yourself. If you look at the marking scheme, for the explain question on the picture sequence here, and it's in the project, it's explain as well. Now in the project, it's past tense. And in the picture sequence, it can be from describe a bedroom, describe a person, what are they thinking, how are they reacting, anything on that line. Over here, we're also asked to clarify something on the project. And it could be like, wie haben Sie das Projekt zusammengestellt? Hat das Projekt Ihnen gut Spaß gemacht, gut gefallen? Did you like your project? And we'll go through and I'll give you kind of information on that. But the most important part of this is that it's past tense. So for the project, it's past tense in the middle. How you put it together and explaining something about it. So 5 and 5. For the Bildergeschichten, it's future projection. And the most common question they'll ask is, wie geht die Geschichte weiter? So if you're looking at, say, notes, I've just chosen, say, the notes for Handy Mubbin, okay? Here's my Handy Mubbin that we're going through. And then, so this is, look, options, different versions of options to have. And then this is the notes I would give you, which are like, you've got your German, got your English, and you've got for 4 Versionen, 4 versions of the project, of the picture sequence. Now, you're obviously not going to be learning these all off now, but they'll help you with it. And you can go through them. You have your German, you have your English, and build up. So my advice to all students who are here today, make sure you prepare your project or your picture sequence as well. Make sure you put the effort in to know them, because always they'll be a great help for you for the Leaving Cert written paper. What comes up in the oral, like I'm 38 years teaching in the institute, and I've never seen a paper where the oral is not reflected in the written paper. So here's the Bildbeschreibung, just to show you. So they'll ask you, for example, describe Sarah's Schlafzimmer. And here you different options, and you can go through it and pick out different things that you would want to, the lipstick, the makeup, the brush, etc. So it's a really good way of building up your general language. And so 5 marks in the picture sequences goes for explaining something, describing people, Personenbeschreibung. So we just run through those in the course and we get a good sense of where they're about. And then the future projection is what I want to show you here. And then future projection, which is what will happen next. And that is generally in German, the future tense is werden plus the infinitive. So they're testing the future tense in the Bildergeschichten. Wie geht die Geschichte weiter? And you need 3 or 4 good sentences in your future projection. So in the project, it's past tense. And in the Bildergeschichten, it's future projection. So you might just be aware of that. And you need to have 3 or 4 good sentences with werden plus the infinitive. And so wie ich werde, du wirst, wird, wir werden, ihr werdet, sie werden, and your full infinitive going to the end, or you'd have your Projekt past tense. So you can see they're equally marked. 10 for your version, you're marked out of 10. Ohne Fehler, without mistakes, to get into the 8 to 10. Gute Aussprache, good pronunciation, and nice vocabulary, and a few conjunctions in places. Now, the third section is the opinion of issue. Now, this is just a mini reflection of your written honours paper, where I have to give an opinion on different things, whether it's the Oisachin thema or the short essay or the letter. And it's a really good practice for you to understand that here we want to include some conjunctions. And conjunctions are words that join sentences together. So you remember when I was looking at the Bildergeschichten, I said it was 20-20. So 20 for your content and 20 for your language. So the biggest single most important area in German, I said 3 words there, is the Wortstellung. And Wortstellung is word order. And if my word order is bad, my grade will be bad. In any part of the oral, I need good word order. So, and also for any expression, whether it's your written in June, whether it's your oral, imagine your oral is 100 marks, which it is. 50 is technically expression, and 50 is communication, or 60-40. And either way, I need to be very careful when I am answering questions that I'm always just tuned in to word order. So word order and phrases to express your opinion. So if I would go back just again, I'm going to take my handy mobbing as my example. So the third area then is they ask me to describe people, rooms and future projection. And then the last part then is the thema. So they'll ask me something about handy mobbing. Ist Mobben heutzutage ein Problem in Ihrer Schule? Is it a problem in your school? Wie kann man das Problem bekämpfen oder lösen? How can you solve the problem? Wurden Sie gemobbt, were you ever bullied? And was für Strafen gibt es in Ihrer Schule? What kind of sanctions are there in your school? So we're always thinking through, and these are very similar to the type of questions that could come up in our Leaving Cert. So it's always good to prepare these themes for your oral. So if you look at handy mobbing, I suppose the themes that would come up, I'm not sure if anyone here is doing that. You might like to indicate to me as well. I will throw up a second picture in a second just to run through 2. Another example, we do all 5 in the oral course. Just to say to you, look at, you can see here I put in my conjunctions, vile. I put in my conjunction vile. So I'm going to show the examiner, I put in my conjunction den, 1, 2. So I'm using conjunctions in the oral so that this is what we call structures. And that will help me to get a higher grade in my structures and expression, showing the examiner that I can use a conjunction like den, which is a coordinate conjunction, and I'd get the correct word order, and the correct word order then would be denn sie langweilen sich, they're bored, denn sie amüsieren sich, they enjoy themselves, etc. So one of the key things in word order is to, so it's going to flick up the word order handout for a second that we would run through. And word order is really big in German, and we forget about it at times. And people just like speak without thinking. So conjunctions are the words I showed you, like vile and den. And then adverbs will be your TMP, time, manner, and place. And the 4 things we cover and you need to be very competent in for your oral is like the position of the verb, which is that the verb is always the second ID in a main clause, the time, manner, place. And to be honest with you, the third one is not really an issue. It's because it's order of nouns and pronouns where dative comes before accusative. I mean, you'll have it in your preparation of the learning you've done, but it's very important that you can show the examiner that a separable verb separates and the prefix goes to the end. So the auf here goes to the end from aufstehen. That an inseparable verb like bestehen, any verb beginning with be, ge, zer, or ver, bestehen does not separate, and how to handle that. That you can show that a verb like aufstehen does separate in the present tense and the imperfect, stays together in the future, and in the past tense becomes aufgestanden, okay? So you can see that at all times, word order is big, and we forget about it. And same in the written in your Leaving Cert, in your expression in your Leaving Cert, which is like For your written honours, like in your oral, expression is always crucial. 25 marks for the letter and 13 for the 12 for the Oisen, which is 37 out of 75 is expression. And the first thing I mark off in any correction of the leaving cert is word order and then verbs. So we could nearly parallel the importance of word order in your written paper as you can in your oral. And people don't think about this when they go into the oral. So we look a lot at that. And you can see how the future tense or the modal verbs, full infinitive at the end, and then haben and sein, past participle at the end. So then we have the conjunction. So the verb is always the second ID in the main clause. And then you need to show in your oral some subordinate conjunctions. And these are words that are in this box here, like weil and das. So das and weil and obwohl and wenn. And more so wenn, because wenn is one we need to show for the beroepsplane. And they all kick the verb to the end. All kick the verb to the end. So we need to show in the oral to get a nice expression mark using conjunctions like weil and putting the verb to the end. And then the second type of conjunctions we'd look at would be the und, aber, oder, sondern, and den. And they're conjunctions that have no effect on the verb. So they go 1, 2, und ich gehe, aber ich denke. And then the third group of conjunctions are adverbial conjunctions, and they're followed by the verb. So like an example of that there, you can see it in the box, would be for the oral. My parents are very strict. I was going to kind of highlight it there. I think you should be able to see my. So meine Eltern sind sehr streng, comma, when I write it. Deshalb, because of that, streiten wir uns viel. We fight a lot. If I put an expression of time, which I do need again, that's the next thing I'm going to come to. How do I build up my answer? Well, we've talked about conjunctions and having the relevant conjunction and having the necessary word order change. So here you have minor, nach, and the verb comes next, sind. So that's what we practice. That's what you need to watch out for in your oral. And everyone who's going to do a good oral will study. But what most people go down in is the bad answering technique, or not watching out for the essential key areas that the examiner is looking for. So it's how to get the top grade, how to build it up, okay? So as you see here, then the other one that comes up a lot will be TMP, and that is time, manner, and place. Now, time always comes first, and place always comes last. And how I do it, like mit dem Zug, mit dem Rad, mit einem Messer, with a knife, schnell. So manner can be transport, it can be like schnell, quickly. It can be he killed him with a knife, mit einem Messer, etc. So time, manner, and place. And to watch all of those. So verb, second idea, separable verbs, inseparable verbs, reflexive verbs, and then conjunctions, and then TMP, time, manner, and place. So I've just kind of dipped in to make it worth your while this evening into two key grammatical areas. I looked at the perfect tense because it's crucial for the general questions in the role plays. And then we've gone through the marking scheme now of the project and picture sequence. And we talked about the theme element always requires. So if you ask me, how do I get my top mark in the third section of this here? Well, it's exactly the same as the written in the leaving cert. I give a nice phrase expressing my opinion. Ich bin der Meinung, ich bin der Ansicht. I have das or I don't have das in, and that would be leaving the verb. Without das, it's normal word order. With das, the verb goes to the end, and I will have a conjunction. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a moment. So we'll talk about Satzstruktur, sentence structure, and Satzaufbau, and building up your sentence in a moment. But before I do that, I'd like to just flick back now to show you in the notes just very quickly. Here, just very briefly what I've said so that you benefit from it, which will be that the key area for the general question. So it's picture sequence, 12 to 15 sentences, what's happening in the story. I probably recommend for anyone who can, maybe 18. present tense, link words. We never say like in the first picture and the second picture. We just connect them with like etwas später, bald danach, and then future projection and clarification, explanation, 10 marks, and to elaborate as much as possible. Wie geht die Geschichte weiter? What will happen next? We've gone through that, the werden plus the infinitive, and then opinion of issue, using conjunctions, having phrases to express your opinion, and saying as much as you can, elaborating out, so 3 or 4 sentences, okay? And that's what we need to do to try to get the top mark. The project is very similar in that it has 3 parts, and I know I have 3 people here doing it, so I'm just going to just go for that for one moment. And the project should have the same as before, an uninterrupted presentation of 20 sentences. 2 minutes, they say, is roughly the amount of time. And there is an explanation on the examinations.ie under, if anyone is doing the project. I give it out of the course, but if you wanted to look it up, it's under the oral information section under German project, what they're looking for. Here then you have, you give your information, past tense is being tested in the middle section. Wo haben Sie Informationen über bekommen? Warum haben Sie dieses Thema gewählt? Is always asked. Und wie haben Sie, will you mark off? Wie haben Sie, was haben Sie dabei gelernt? What did you learn? Okay. And it's very important to be able to fall back on your project. And then opinion of issue, similar to, occurs to me with your project, the theme. So to think through potential questions that you feel could be asked based on your theme. And then was meinen Sie dazu? What do you think? So far we've covered 40 marks for the general questions, allgemeine Fragen, 30 Punkte, 30 marks for the project picture sequence, which is 70. And the project picture sequence is worth 7.5% of your leaving cert. And the general questions are worth 40 marks, 10%. So before I go to the third section, I'm just going to look at an example here now of a general handout for the general questions. So I took 2. And I'm just going to just get them on screen now. So the first one is sport, okay? So, ich bin Feuer und Flamme für Sport. I'm mad about sport. Und ich bin von Hockey sehr begeistert. I'm very enthusiastic. So straight away, I have the examiner's attention because I've used nice little phrases rather than say ich mag. I can say like Deutsch gefällt mir, Sport gefällt mir, showing my dative impersonal phrase. But it's nice to open up with whatever hobby you want to choose. And if I say to you, sehen Sie gern Fern, you don't have to watch TV. You can say, ich sehe nicht gern Fern, aber ich treibe gern Sport. Ich muss zugeben, I have to admit, Sport ist mein Lieblingshobby. Ich bin Feuer und Flamme dafür. So pick out a topic that you're going to show nice language, prepare it well, and present it well. And then if you can see here, wann trainieren Sie? Mindestens twice a week. As well as that in addition. So we're putting in nice phrases. We are topping up. And then hockey var for me. Hockey is a sports achievement. Camogie, I'm playing hauptsächlich mainly zum Spaß. And as you can see, Offenbar, very obviously important for me, and Sport, and there's my das, kicking the verb to the end. Ein guter Ausgleich zum Schulstress, it's a good outlet to school stress. There's my dative verb, Deutsch gefällt mir, and then meiner, meine, nach, and the verb comes next, which I'll underline. And then this is my idiomatic phrase, Sport ist das A und O des Lebens. Sport is one of the most essential things in life. So look, it's just 2 paragraphs. It's quite an interesting combination of language that I know, and I know from experience from my own students, that most people will write in their leaving cert with the language that they learn for their oral. So the Qualität der Sprache is the one thing I want to talk about next, quality of the language. Here's the second one, then I'm just going to pop into German and the leaving cert. That's Abitur und Lernen. So I open up with a lovely phrase. Dieses Jahr ist wie in Fluge vergangen. This year has flown. Straight away, you have me. I'm going, wow. So the level there, excellent. And then the second phrase is Das Abitur steht kurz vor der Tür. You have me again. Lovely idiomatic, leaving search just around the corner. Then I introduce a lovely reflexive verb followed by a preposition, and that's one of my top structures, sich konzentrieren auf. And muss mich täglich anstrengen, I have to make an effort. So straight away, the work is done. So opening up well with 3 or 4 good, solid, nice phrases to help me grasp the examiner's attention and show my nice language. And then I've just kept it there. I learn right around the clock. Das ist die reinste Hölle. My life is pure hell. I urgently need einen Tapetenwechsel, a change of wallpaper, change of scenery. So full of nice language. I really miss my free time. I wish I had more time for myself. And you know what? You've got another 5 weeks, so enough of time to top up your answers, to try to get as high a grade as possible. I think I might have said it earlier, but I'll repeat it again. A pattern in German is that you get one, this is for a prepared student, that you will get 1 grade higher in your leaving cert oral than you will in your written. So it's a very student-friendly marking scheme. It does reward the worker. So hat jemand eine Frage? Any questions that anyone would like to put into the chat or anything? So the third area of the oral is the Rollenspiele, and das ist das letzte Teil. It's the last section of the paper, and therefore students are so anxious to get out, they forget how important it is to take your time here. So each section generally lasts about 4 to 4.5 minutes. And Sie müssen so she'll say, bitte, or he will say, der Prüferin werden sagen, bitte wählen Sie eine Rollenspielkarte aus. So they ask you to choose a role play. Es gibt 5 Karten with 5 cards. Wir müssen 3 wählen. We choose 3 of that 5. And your job for that 5 is, for the 3 you do, to know your card well. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to put up the information first on the marking scheme again. So all I've shown you here is a duplicate marking scheme of the Leaving Cert, except they have it on 1 page and they have it on a coloured format. I'll give you one of those during the oral course as well in the school. The physical course is the one I do there. But just to show you 2 things here, very, very important. The marking scheme for the role play is content based. So we have 5 key points. If I can ask you how many are doing Hun verloren as their role play, if you can take down your information on the project and maybe give me a hands up on how many are doing Hun verloren for the project. So there's the role play marking scheme, and I'll have a look now in a second. It's 5 tasks, and it's called effective communication in completion of tasks. So what does that mean? That you carry out the task in each part. So if I leave out a point, I lose a mark. If I miscommunicate an answer, I lose a mark. So it's content controlled, exactly like your written, like everything in German, content controlled. Like the example I gave earlier on, was ist Ihr Lieblingsfach? And I just say, ich lerne 7 Fächer. The question was, what's your favorite subject? And that's what they want you to answer. So how do I tackle the card? Know the role play card well. And before I go to the marking scheme, I'll just show you here a card. So you can see here, each card has 5 points. Each point gets 4 marks. So 4 marks for each one. Okay. And that will bring me to 20. And that's 5%. Ordinary level students are doing the same card. So if you are well disciplined in your cards and you practice them well, there should be no reason why you don't get 20 out of 20. And understand the communication. So it's effective communication in completion of tasks, meaning answering the question that the examiner asks you and carrying out the tasks that are requested of you. Now down here, there's 10 marks then for your competency, vocabulary and accuracy. And the instruction in the marking scheme comes is to mark hard here. So you will not get a high mark here if you have low content. So that's the first thing. So you always gain by the content mark. And if you are careless and mixing up pronouns, or if you have pronunciation mistakes or lexical mistakes and meaning like studieren or learning or kennen and wissen, anything like that, or ausgeben, spend money for bringing, to spend time, I will take marks off you there. Or if I, and then to get into this one here, I need good accuracy, nice language in places like I've shown you in the Bildergeschichten and the general questions, and good full content marks. So a role play is absolutely yours for the taking. So can I have a show of hands how many are doing Hun verloren there? 1, 2, 3. Anybody else? Okay, 4, great. Anybody else? Fabulous. Okay, most here are doing it. Okay. So great. So I'm going to throw this one up very briefly just to show you how it's done. And the key point here with, so I'll throw up my card. I think I have it here, yeah. So here's the Hun verloren card. And this is what you will get, obviously minus all my colouring. But you have the card in German, and you'll also have the card in English, okay? So that you get one card and it'll be German and English. Now I have just thrown up the German part here for today, but you can see it's 5 points. So we always start here, and your first task is to greet me. And you say, Guten Abend, because it's good evening. Können Sie mir bitte helfen? Can you please help me? And then ich möchte einen Verlust melden. I would like to report a loss. And that möchte has an umlaut on it. So I'd like to report a loss. And you open up, so you start off the actual roleplay card. Hallo, guten Abend, können Sie mir bitte helfen? And then use all your resources from the card first. Ich möchte einen Verlust melden. I'd like to report a loss. Können Sie mir, umlaut on the O again, können Sie mir bitte helfen? Then you say, you introduce yourself and say that the family have gone away. 1 mark for that. And woher kommen Sie? You may be asked. Ich komme aus der Grafschaft Mead. I come from County Meath. I'm Irish. Ich muss auf den Hund aufpassen. I have to take care of the dog. Or ich passe auf den Hund auf. I am taking care of the dog. Ich passe auf den Hund auf. I'm taking care of the dog. And what happens? Als ich den Hund, ich habe den Hund im Wald geführt, oder als ich den Hund im Grunewald spazieren fuhre, as I walked him, begegnen wir einen Wildschwein, and begegnen takes the dative, and Wildschwein is a wild boar, and because begegnen takes the dative, it's einem Wildschwein. Wir sind einem Wildschwein begegnet, we met a wild boar. Oder wir haben ein Wildschwein gesehen. Now, for example, and I'll run through these with you, as I say, in detail. I'm only giving kind of guidance tonight on the benefits of knowing how you're marked and how all the essential areas are crucial to get the final top grade. But I must mention Wildschwein in point 1, or I lose marks. I must mention Wildschwein here. It's implied and I lose marks. Then we go to the second point, and it says, wann genau, when exactly. So, heute Morgen 12 Uhr, this morning, oder das Unglück ist heute Morgen passiert. It happened this morning. Wo genau, and then say where exactly. Neben dem Kinderspielplatz, beside the, in Grunewald, in the play area. So specify exactly. So you don't always have to give full sentences when you're answering these questions. And the examiner might say, wann genau ist der Hund weggelaufen? Und wo ist das passiert? Where did it happen? Das war in Dahlem, in der Nähe von der Havel, the river that runs through the Grunewald, near the Havel River. Okay? So you specify where, when. And then beschreiben Sie den Hund, denn ist ein freundlicher, verspielter Hund. So a few nice little adjectives to describe the dog. And hat schwarzes Fell mit weißen Flecken. Now, like you saw on the, with the notes on the picture sequence, with the same versions, I'll give you different versions of Hund verloren, and you can see there schwarzes Fell, black fur mit weißen Flecken with white spots. So my advice would be to have nice language in places in your role play to score a high mark in the 10 out of 10 for expression, because it's such an easy area to do well. Communication is the key. The examiner asks questions and communication. Any questions on this, anybody? Anyone like to ask a question? So can you just be aware that, again, communication is the key. So one of the things we always want to do is make sure we get every mark for everything on the card. Then we have past tense. Das haben Sie schon gemacht. Ich habe laut gerufen. So if it's in the brackets, I have to mention it. And then I have to describe his what he's wearing as a collar, etc. So every point on it. And to have social media, to say, if I say he recommends going to the postman. So it's always good to have a suggestion, a reaction, like ein guter Vorschlag, a good suggestion. I'm going to open that out for you there. So ein guter Vorschlag, a good suggestion. Das ist eine gute Idee. That's a good idea. Or I will ring the postman. Ich werde den Tierschutz anrufen. And you can see from that there, it's very much a similar preparation as it is to any part of the oral, to go into detail in each section and to be very competent in carrying out the tasks. And where they have a ... like in social media here, I have to go soziale Medien and then also mention maybe ein Foto im Supermarkt aufhängen. Ein Foto im Supermarkt aufhängen, to put a photo in a supermarket or whatever, okay? So there's little things like that that can help you with them. And so ich kann ein Foto im Supermarkt am schwarzen Brett aufhängen. I can hang a picture in the supermarket on the notice board. And then we have soziale Medien einsetzen, to use social media. So there's 3 of the 5 that one has to do. The other ones are Anruf, interview, Problem mit Touristen, and then not to forget, of course, Einladungs und Festival. So when we look at the oral, we have many factors to take into account. One of the main factors here for the oral will be your ability in preparation, but also the language then. So we need to run that, we run to the language that you need for the oral. So all the oral is in polite form. Wie heißen Sie, wo wohnen Sie, haben Sie Geschwister? And they don't ask complicated questions, and then the instructions. And so German's a big one. Let's talk about that for a moment. So the 3 key questions, if anyone is doing Chancen durch Deutsch, you may get the German as well in your general questions, but generally the examiner will ask most students, like, seit wann lernen Sie Deutsch? And they're looking for the grammatical point there, seit 5 Jahren. Okay, so just be very careful that your grammatical areas are well-minded. Speak slowly, deliver well, and practice. And then this is the literature that I mentioned. And I want to finish today, we're coming to the end of today, but I want to finish with the Berufspläne. The Berufspläne is a big section, and it's like the wenn clause in German is equivalent to the da and ma clause in Irish. So when I get Berufspläne, I call that level 2 earlier on in German, I want to show the examiner that I can use the word order correctly. So wenn is one of those words that kicks the verb to the end. It is used on 2 main occasions in German, and it's very, very important. It means when at all times, wenn, except wann means at what time, and als means when, once in the past. So wenn is whenever or if. And when you get, and if you are asked the question on Berufspläne, was möchten Sie nach dem Abitur studieren? Haben Sie Berufspläne? Was sehen Sie vor? What would you prefer? It's really good to get a wenn clause in. And when we get the wenn clause in, the idea behind it is that you're showing the examiner, I can use wenn, I can put the verb to the end. So here's one just here, that's Abitur, you know, and learning. And why go on holidays? That's another one for you're asked. And das halten Sie von Wassersport? What do you think of water sports? and Generationskonflikt for the Geburtstagsüberraschung, generational conflict, okay? And then, of course, your Redewendung. So it's going to just show you a little few on Redewendung. So these are phrases that I used earlier on when I said like Übung macht den Meister. So these are little phrases where das geht mir auf den Wecker, that gets on my nerves. Or Sie haben den Nagel auf den Kopf getroffen. You hit the nail on the head. You're very exact. Or another example could be here, Morgenstund hat Gold im Mund. And I used good ones earlier on up there. Dieses Jahr ist wie im Fluge vergangen. This year has flown. Das Abitur steht kurz vor der Tür. So what I've done this evening is giving you a good exposure to all the general areas in the oral. And one of the purposes of tonight was to dip into all sections to explain to you how to get the grade, because that's the key thing. Our aim always is to pull the highest grade possible in the oral, and we work on two skills. How I'm marked, which I've gone through tonight, wie wir werden bewertet, and that's brauche ich die höchste Punktzahl zu kriegen. What do I need to get the highest points? Now, one of the things that I'm just going to summarize in that was that perfect tense is crucial. Word order is crucial. So is past tense in the project, future in the Bildergeschichten, and then I've given you examples of how to build up your language expression. So we're coming to the end of this evening's masterclass. And if anyone would like to unmute and ask any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. Anybody like to put a question into the chat? Is there anything on any area that anyone would like to ask? So it's going to summarize by doing 4 things. So for the general questions, it's to start with your best first, have good answers, well prepared, and to think through the potential questions the examiner may follow on with. Like if you say, for example, ich muss im Haushalt helfen, I have to help at home, was müssen Sie tun? What do you have to do? So have a few household chores. Number 2, to have nice level of expression in places, to try and include 2 or 3 conjunctions in some of your overall answers, not in all of them, in some of them. And very, very important to when you're giving your past tense or you're doing event clause, that you do it slowly, accurately, and very, very methodically. Okay, it's really important to ensure that you've given it every single element of it. So könnte ich euch viel Glück wünschen. May I wish you all the best of luck in your exams. I may meet some of you on my travels over the next while at Easter course or the oral course. And please introduce yourself if you do. I'd love to say hello to you. And könnte ich euch wirklich, ich möchte mich bei Ihnen bedanken, like to thank you. And ich hoffe, dass Sie alle gute Ergebnisse kriegen. I hope you all get very good results. So thank you all, guys. Wishing you all the best. And hat jemand eine Frage, any questions? Okay, thank you. Mind yourselves. Bye-bye.